Solvitur Ambulando, The Adventures of Steve and Dixie by Stephen Breakstone. Snippets from my journal. Episode 16, July 29th, 1986. My mom's birthday. I noticed that between Alexandria and Shreveport, Louisiana, the people were friendly but not overly hospitable. Between Shreveport and Sulphur Springs, Texas, it seemed that everyone we met wanted to adopt us. However, for the last few days, we have not garnered much more attention than a sauna. We walked through the towns of Wolf City, Fairleigh, Bailey, Randolph, Whitewright, Tom Bean, and Luella, Texas. The people I meet, the occasional risk takers who stop to say hello, or the storekeepers I talk to are very nice, and that is greatly appreciated. I feel safe. But their lifestyles are strange to me. Towns like Luella, Randolph, or Bailey have a population of only a couple of hundred at best, and maybe a grocery store or a cafe. A couple of the other towns have around 1,000 people. I guess people just live. They are alive. I don't know exactly what they do. What do they do with themselves in these tiny, far from any real towns? For 22 years, I grew up in New York. For me, and millions of others, there's always some activity, entertainment, education, or various jobs available. Something is everywhere. I truly and respectfully would like to know what these people are doing with their lives. I understand many are ranchers and farmers, but does their life go beyond that? Probably yes. But also, maybe no. I imagine that for some, their life is to simply and faithfully work, eat, sleep, and work. I'm sure raising kids is in the mix too. That could keep you busy, but I wonder if that is enough. I don't think it would be for me. And of course, not everyone is a rancher or a farmer. Do the people who live here feel fulfilled? What are the advantages? Would I consider that the advantages outweigh the disadvantages? I'm so curious, but as I walk through, I don't feel comfortable interviewing strangers to that depth. I don't want to come off as judgmental or too nosy. I am here to see, to learn. I would like to understand. It's the polar opposite of New York or even New Orleans, both of which I consider too much for my preference. I guess I'm looking to see if there's a happy medium. I don't think the lifestyle of these tiny towns in northern Texas could be for me. I do notice that most of the people I see and meet are older folks. Perhaps the younger people went to find outlets for their youthful energy elsewhere. And maybe the older people are people who had gone away and now have come back to the quiet life in their retirement years. Or maybe they're just the last of a dying breed. I wonder about it. I'm just not too sure what to make of it. I met an old man sitting in a tiny store that was between Fairleigh, a town of less than 100, and Wolf City, with a population of about 1,500. The store sat virtually in the middle of nowhere. It was sort of a gas station mini mart. He had been in it for 46 years, he said. He was friendly, nice, a part of Americana. I was struck that the man was not too sure what was up the road when I asked him what kind of stores I would find in Wolf City. He said that it had been years since he had to go up there, and it's only a few miles. It seems to me that this journey is taking me not so much on a trip to find my country, but as a trip to find myself in my country. Side note. Yeah, I know. Duh. The thought wasn't exactly an epiphany at the time I recorded it in my journal. As you can imagine, especially by walking 10 to 15 miles almost every day, self reflection had plenty of time to germinate. Sometimes the thought hit stronger than other times, and this time I made note of it. The words and the concept of finding myself helped me to explain to myself why I was doing what I was doing, especially during the challenging moments. So let me explain it to a greater depth. I really did want to learn more about America. Since driving round trip across America in the summer between my sophomore and junior college years, the land and the people of the United States inspired me. The bad and the sad news on television and newspapers, and from politicians wanting to replace an incumbent from the other political party, did not accurately express the gloriousness that was so much of the USA. My untraveled New York City upbringing had such a limited perspective of reality of what this country was. And my first cross country adventure provided a powerful and undefined inspiration, one that was cultivated with Mike and Karen during my junior and senior years of college. And those conversations led me to travel in the van through the mid Atlantic states and live and work in the French Quarter, and becoming convinced that the experience of walking from New Orleans to Seattle en route to Alaska would lead me to find my place within this incredible opportunistic country and lead to a very satisfying destination in life. How could it not? Well, those thoughts were powerful motivation for a young dreamer with no other passions or direction and couldn't fathom just going down the road most unhappily traveled. I didn't know what success would specifically mean for me, but I felt destined for it. And in that sense, I had no doubt. Yet it was a very intangible future I had been thinking about, yet tangible enough to keep me going during the times when the adventure had more negatives than positives. The land is prairie, not entirely flat, and so when I look around, I see variations in the topography. I see land used as cow pastures, cornfields, or milo or wheat fields. The sides of the road are pretty clean, as there is a certain amount of Texas pride, and passersby seem to heed the "Don't mess with Texas" signs. I find that this part of Texas is cleaner than much of Louisiana. Unfortunately, I also see some dry creek beds that are used as dumping grounds for those who found it too difficult to care about using a real dump. I see areas that still have trees standing together to make mini forests for a mile or 5 miles. I wonder if that land looked more like these forests before they were cleared for farming. I see skies that are clear blue. Sometimes I see cloud puffs. I see all of nature's glorious colors reflecting off clouds at sunrise and sunset. I live within all of this. Texas may not be home, yet all the beauty is, especially as an American. We all share it. July 30th, 1986, Sherman, Texas. I have found that most often the people who have been the most outgoing are in their 40s or older. My own generation is very skeptical, or, if fascinated, they look at us from a distance. Maybe my generation is too young to understand or appreciate what I'm doing. Most people older than me seem to have their interest based on a bit of respect with a dash of envy. I often hear, "I wish I had done what you are doing," or "I've always thought about doing something like that." One of my motivations to do the things that I have done has been hearing and listening to the older generation and learning from them, be it in Spring Valley, New York, or Luella, Texas. Side note: the concept of "I wish I had done fill in the blank" when I was younger was also a powerful motivation for me. That theme really struck me long before I headed off to college. Through the social media of the day, TV, movies, books, and articles, and even advice columnists like Dear Abby, I often keyed in on a common theme of so many people, real and fictional, who expressed that if they had a chance to live life over again, they would delay their career, marriage, and parenthood, in whatever order they were in, and try to fulfill some of their youthful dreams. I always thought it sad when those sentiments came from people who now felt they were too old, or for whatever various reason, to fulfill their bucket list. You might wonder why I keyed in on those themes at such a young age, more so than the average adolescent. Now, there is a pathology behind my lifestyle choice that could be considered interesting to explore, but we'll leave that discussion for another time. When I seriously began to travel after college graduation, first in the van with Mike and Karen, and then on foot with Dixie, the many individuals who expressed their appreciation of me doing what I was doing as a young man was another powerful reinforcer to persevere. Their words of admiration and encouragement that I would appreciate the adventure the rest of my life reinforced that I was doing something special. I did feel that I had some foresight. Of course, Foresight only proves to be positive foresight after it becomes hindsight. Once again, heat and exhaustion are the words for the day. I was not too confident of how far we would get, but we got to Sherman and started heading west. Sherman has a population of about 32,000, and so we had a lot of neighborhoods and houses to get through before we would reach out there again on the other side to find a private place to camp. As we walked, I wasn't paying much attention to anything but the ground ahead of me and Dixie behind me. So when a car stopped right in front of us, I almost crashed into it. Where you headed? The man had a hard, stern face with some age. He spoke slowly and he squinted, hardly looking me in the eye. I was hot, tired, and not in the mood to repeat that which I so often had said. But I did. I figured, he said after I went through my story. You figured? I asked. That was a strange response. It's almost 100 degrees out now, and it's not getting any cooler. You and your dog are packed to the hilt, and you both look like as you've been doing this for some time. I've read about others who have walked cross country. I saw you passing my house earlier, so I just had to stop. If I were in a normal state of mind, I would have welcomed the conversation. But I was hot, exhausted, short of temper, and even shorter of complete rationality. But I kept enough wits about me to play out the scene safely. As I talked and listened, I recalled a newspaper article I read the other day. The squinting man asked, Are you hungry? Could you use a bit of a rest? Yes, I thought. No, not really, I said. The article I found drifting on the side of the road the other day, someone's unneeded garbage but extra reading material from me, explained a series of incidents in southern Texas. Drifters, hitchhiking around with no particular place to go, are being offered rides by people also offering jobs. Many of these young men, with little money and open to anything, are willing to do a little work, make some cash, and enjoy the company of these friendly men. Investigations have shown that these drifters had been trapped into slave labor. Stuck in the confusing situation, many tried to escape and were mentally and physically tortured for their defiance. In time, their only escape was the death granted by the torturers. It was not a pretty story, and it was just recently coming to light. This man, talking slow, eyes half shut, and not looking directly at me, spurred my imagination into remembering what I had read. On the other hand, I was, in fact, hot, tired, and needed a rest. With him, I noticed in the passenger seat a nice looking lady who I guessed was his wife still in the car. She made me feel a little bit better. My house is back about a block, maybe two, number 939. It's a grayish looking house. I got to go somewhere for an hour or so, but you and your dog are welcome to wait on the porch if you want. His hesitation about where his house was, the address, and the color had me raise a tired eyebrow. I would never have bothered at all if we hadn't run into the likes of Lucy Parlange, Charlotte Stogsdill, Matt Logan, and quite a few other wonderful people. The people of this country have been taking chances on us, and now is our turn. I was aware that my skepticism was part heat and part imagination. A couple of weeks ago, I was asked to cool down and have some watermelon. It turned into 3 days of fun. Walking on the side of the highways, having anyone and everyone fly by us and tons of steel at high speeds could be no riskier than waiting on a porch in the middle of a big town, or any more torturous than walking in what I later learned to be 110-degree sunshine with 45 pounds on my back. I walked back to the nice looking, square, gray, 3-story house and waited. Dixie by my side, my Swiss Army knife in my pocket. I kept my Rambo knife near the top of the pack. Clarence and Liz White came back within the hour, as they had said. And I'll share the rest of that story on the next episode. That's it for now. Peace.